The Geek Speak Show Volume 2 is produced and distributed by 22 Creations Multimedia, LLC.
Well, look at you. You found one of the longest-running geek culture talk shows. This is the Geek Speak Show, Volume 2, featuring nerdy Navajo news with Sean Clenn, and now the Geek Speak Show Book Club. Here's the host of the Geek Speak Show, Henry San Miguel.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Geek Speak Show. Now it's been 3 days as I'm recording this and San Diego Comic-Con finished. Have you recovered? I haven't. I really haven't. And let me start the show by saying this. I learned two important things last week during Comic-Con. The first, I think I'm getting too old for all this running around. I mean, we didn't do too much running. As you know, you really can't. We walked or tried to walk everywhere. Sometimes we shuffled to get from one place to another. So doing all of that, my knees are still hurting. My ankles hurt. My feet hurt. My thighs hurt. My back hurts a little bit. I've slept a lot, but it seems like still not enough. So I think I'm just getting too old. Either that or I got to start working out earlier in the year to get ready for San Diego Comic-Con. One of the two. So I learned that. The second, two more revelations that were actually revealed to me during Comic-Con. And this one is kind of tied into what I just said. I need a team of younger co-hosts, and they can do the running around and carrying cameras and all the stuff that comes with it. I need younger co-hosts for sure. And the other one is we need the interviews to come to us rather than us going or trying to go to them. It takes a while to get from press room to press room. So we need them to come to us rather than us going to them. I may address the needing the younger co-host part later on, although a lot of you probably saw the post on, I think it was Monday of this week, that we would like to add a younger co-host. So you know what I'm talking about, but I may talk about it a little bit more before we end this episode. Don't know. But other than all of that, those are stuff for me and for the Geek Speak Show. Other than that, another fantastic San Diego Comic-Con in the memory banks. Nobody noticed that Marvel wasn't in Hall H this year, other than you could actually walk into Hall H this year. You didn't have to wait in line for a lot of and there were some big panels there. I got to say, the Alien movie franchise, it had a huge presence throughout the week, even not just because it had a big banner on the bayfront, but Alien Earth had a panel, had an activation. Killer of Killers was talked about in one of the panels. Predator Badlands had a big presence. They had a panel and had an activation in the gas lamp. Although I got to say that we waited for almost over an hour to get in, and we were pretty close to the front of the line until finally, almost an hour later, the security came in and said, "You have to be 21 and over to go into this activation," which we all are, except for my daughter. She's legal. She's 18, but not 21. For some, I guess they gave you a drink or something in there. Now, which is fine, but I was thinking in my head, you could have told us this about an hour before, so we wouldn't have wasted an hour just standing here in line for something we could have gone into. But hey, as Comic-Con, I've always said you got to be in the line to see if you can be in the line. And this time we couldn't be in the line. But Alien, like I was saying, and Predator, they had a big presence this year. Marvel was there. They had their no panels, but they had their booth. The Fantastic Four banners were everywhere. So they were still there, just not, like in past years. And what else? Got to talk about the big thing, that not Marvel, but the big thing was actually on Sunday morning this time, the last day of Comic-Con, and you all probably heard about it, know about it by now. The biggest thing this year at San Diego Comic-Con was the first, and honestly, when I heard this, I had to go look it up. I was like, wait, is this true? And it is. This was George Lucas's first ever appearance at San Diego Comic-Con. He took the stage in Hall H on Sunday morning along with Guillermo del Toro and Doug Chiang to talk about not Star Wars. I know everybody wanted him to talk about Star Wars, but he doesn't own it anymore, in case you forgot. So he wasn't going to talk about Star Wars. Instead, he went to give a preview of his new, the George Lucas Museum of Narrative Art, which is going to be opening in 2026 over here in LA. And I heard over at Comic-Con, I heard somebody say, George Lucas being in Hall H, that's like God visiting the church on Sunday, which I laughed, but thinking about it without venturing into idolatry, it does make sense, because even though Comic-Con was created because of comic books, I mean, it's in the name, it's hard to disagree with the fact that this little movie that George made about 48 years ago it's been a big influence on attendees, obviously, but also other filmmakers like James Cameron and Spielberg and everybody that's come since. And it gives us, Star Wars gives us the blockbusters we see every year in Hall H, and all of it because of a little space movie that no studio believed in until 20th Century Fox did. So perfect that after all these years, finally George Lucas was in Hall H at Comic-Con. Now, if you weren't there for this historic moment, you can watch it on YouTube. It didn't it did. It featured I think it gave us a preview of what is going to be in the museum and what it's going to look like. So there was a short video, so you don't see that, but people in attendance, they did record and they put it on their YouTube channel or on their TikTok. So you can just search George Lucas at Comic-Con or George Lucas in Hall H, and you can watch the whole panel there. But like I said, it was another fun Comic-Con. Even though Marvel and DC and a lot of the big studios, they weren't there, that didn't stop people from going there. It seemed like there were even more people than last year. There were a lot of people last year. So obviously it didn't stop people from not going to Comic-Con. I'm sure some did, some canceled because Marvel wasn't going, or Warner Brothers or DC, but everybody else was there and everybody had fun. Nothing out of the ordinary happened. There were some announcements, and he wasn't there physically, but here's Sean Clem with some of the announcements, a little roundup of what came out of San Diego Comic-Con this year, and maybe a couple of stories from not Comic-Con. So take it away, Sean Clem, and then I'll be back to go up, up, and away. Yes, DC fans, it's going to be for you.
The Geek Speak Show, Volume 2 presents Nerdy Navajo News with Sean Clem.
Oh, yeah, hey everybody, this is Sean Clem here with Navajo Nerdy News, and I know you all miss me here because I've been gone for a couple weeks, but I'm here to give you the news of the geek culture. Here are some announcements that came out of Comic-Con last week. Star Trek Strange New Worlds announced a puppet episode for Season 4, and Paramount also released a teaser for Star Trek Starfleet Academy. There's a lot to say in a little bit right there. Warner Brothers announced a release date for the Looney Tunes movie Coyote vs. Acme, and finally a release date of August 28, 2026. Now, during the Predator Borderlands panel, director Dan Trachtenberg revealed that the animated Predator Killer of Killers film on Hulu now has a new ending, in which Arnold Schwarzenegger's Dutch and Danny Glover's Lieutenant Mike Harrigan from Predator 2. The previous ending surprised many viewers by revealing Amber Midthunder's Naru character from Prey. That was really crazy. It was a really nice touch to be able to bring it all in together. Now, next story. During the Long Walk panel in Hall H, Mark Hamill revealed that he nearly retired from live-action acting after The Rise of Skywalker. But a call from Mike Flanagan offering him a role of Arthur Gordon Pym in the Netflix series The Fall of the House of Usher, and has continued to do live-action acting, as we're about to see him play the Major in The Long Walk. During that panel for Paradise, Sterling K. Brown also gave some information on the upcoming live-action Voltron adaptation from Amazon MGM Studios. He said that the director came up with a really wonderful vision to reintroduce something that he grew up on with in the 80s to the 2027 crowd. It's heartfelt and it's big. He also said that he would sign on in a heartbeat if there was a sequel. Now, he didn't want to reveal who he plays in the series though. There were a lot of reveals, as it always is the case with Comic-Con, and I'm sure Henry will cover those as the year goes on. One final thing for this week, now that San Diego Comic-Con is over, we can start to turn our attention to our favorite time of the year. October and Halloween. Now, if you know of or you yourself are willing to do something awesome for Halloween season, let us know. A home haunt, all ages Halloween event, anything that the Geek Speak audience would love, let us know and we'll feature you on the Geek Speak Treats episode. Oh, I'm really looking forward to this one. It's going to be really fun. I'm just so excited for the heat to go away. But now, thank you so much for everybody listening to this week's Navajo Nerdy News. I shall see you all in the next one. Hook on it.
That was Nerdy Navajo News with Sean Glenn, exclusively on the Geek Speak Show, Volume 2.
Attention fans of horror and paranormal media. I invite you to pick up and read a copy of Eerie Expeditions magazine. You won't find interviews with paranormal TV celebrities or a retelling of the same old, "this place has been haunted for years" type of stories. Eerie Expeditions magazine is filled with articles about real people dealing with real hauntings. Founded and edited by author C.L. Thomas, Eerie Expeditions is your start to a supernatural frontier. Visit EerieExpeditionsMagazine.com to get a single issue or a yearly subscription.
In case you missed it, the Geek Speak Expo has been rescheduled to the fall of 2026. That means that the search for speakers and panelists is once again on. If you have an idea for a panel, you now have an opportunity to pitch it to us to be included next year. The Geek Speak Expo is an all-ages event, so keep it all ages appropriate. You know what that means. If you have to ask if something is appropriate, let me answer it right here. No, it isn't. We are hoping to feature panels highlighting independent films and filmmakers, books including comics and graphic novels, cosplay, gaming, video, RPG, and card games, and anything else that would interest a geek audience. Visit thegeekspeakshow.com for more info and to submit a panel for next year's Geek Speak Expo.
Okay, let's get back to more of the Geek Speak Show, Volume 2. Here's Henry San Miguel.
Opening this Friday, August 1st, and running through August 10th at the Broadwater, LA, is Foster Cat Productions' It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman. It's part of DC's Summer of Superman. And joining me now to talk about it are Foster Cat Productions' artistic directors, Elliot and Harry White. Welcome to the show, guys. How are you?
Hey, thanks so much for having us, Henry. We're so happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So let's begin with who approached who. Did DC approach you guys, or did you approach them, or how did this all happen?
Well, so our theater company is known for doing old, forgotten shows by big writers that nobody's ever heard of. So this show, we just sort of we kind of found. I found in a book. I was so surprised that it existed, and we went to apply for the licensing from the rights holders of Superman and the musical themselves, and they fortunately agreed. So it was definitely more of us going to them. But yeah, that's the simple answer to that question.
Yeah, well, this is the Geek Speak Show. I'm sure there are a lot of Superman fans listening. They're wondering, what is this? Is this a Doomsday storyline? What storyline exactly is the musical going to follow?
It's a funny question.
I'm glad you asked. So the musical, a little backstory written, it opened in 1966. That's when it was done. So I obviously can't speak to that time period as well because I wasn't alive then. But from what I gather from my research, Superman wasn't as in the mainstream as he is now. So the writers of the Superman musical decided that they would create their own original storyline based off the comics using characters that they had invented. I believe only 3 characters from the Superman comic are used in the musical, and that's Superman, Lois Lane, and Perry White. Am I right in that? Yeah, just those 3. Every other there are 2 villains in the show, none of which I think ever appear in any other Superman media.
There is a Jim, but it's not.
It's not Jim Olsen. It's a completely different guy named Jim. And the storyline is really standard musical comedy in that it's a lot of what you'd expect from a musical comedy. And it's there's a love triangle thrown in there. And there are two villains. One who is a super villain. He's a super genius. And then the other is just some petty newspaper writer who works at the Daily Planet. And sort of the gist of the story is the Daily Planet writer, he's jealous that Lois is in love with Superman, so he wants to get rid of Superman. And then also there's this genius named Abner Sedgwick, who's a 10-time Nobel Prize loser, and he wants revenge on the Nobel Prize committee for looking over him. And so in order to get revenge on them, he wants to kill Superman because everybody loves Superman. And that's sort of the basic plot. They sort of plot to take down Superman while Superman's busy doing good. He literally sings a song called "Doing Good," and flirting with Lois, and we wait to see how it all culminates.
Yeah, I think you just sold out all the dates, at least with the Geek Speak show on, is because we were just talking before we started recording about how I just came back from San Diego Comic-Con last week. The people that go there, they love getting rare things, exclusives they would call them. So this is a Superman story that, like you said, not a lot of people may be familiar with. So that alone is going to make people want to go with it. Not even if you're not fans, you don't regularly attend musicals. This is Superman. It's a musical. It's a story that you've never probably heard of before. So why wouldn't you want to go? And by the way, I have the tickets. The link to the tickets on the show description for you guys to get your tickets. Now, who wrote the songs that the audience are going to hear in your musical?
So the songs in our musical are written by Charles Strouse and Lee Adams, most famously known for Bye Bye Birdie, the musical. They worked together on that mega hit in, I believe, 1960. Charles Strouse wrote the music for Annie, the musical, another musical based off of a comic strip. And Charles Strouse also wrote a bunch of television music, film scores, a very, very iconic composer who unfortunately passed away, I believe, around a month ago, but mostly known for his musical theater songs and shows.
Okay. And before people start going crazy, no, it's not going to be Henry Cavill or David Cornish with the new Superman. Who are we going to see? Who are the actors that we're going to see in the musical?
So our theater company is we're predominantly a troupe. We do almost all of the work ourselves with our own group. So we have basically a group of dedicated LA artists who we kind of like cycle through for all of our shows. So it's not going to be any names that you might have heard of before, unless you live in the LA community, because you might have seen them in the theater world. But I will be in it. Elliot White, Harry White, my brother's in it. We have our Cooper McAdoo, Will Fulgenetti. If you live in the LA area, you might have seen us at the Groundlings in the Elaine May and Alan Arkin shows.
But Elliot White himself will be playing Superman in this musical. And I don't know if you're going to ask this as the next question, but I do want to throw in there for fans of Superman fans who are listening to this, the script of the musical, the story of it, was written by David Newman and Bob Benton, who went on 10 years later to write the Richard Donner film. And I think it's really funny that they wrote this original story for the stage and then went on to take a more traditional Lex Luthor focused story for the movie that they wrote.
See, that I love those kind of stories because we talk about this on the Geek Speak show all the time, how I have a lot of up-and-coming actors, writers, people that want to be in the industry in some way. Sometimes it gets tough and they give up, and I always say, look, there are always stories everywhere of people who have hit a brick wall or something happened to slow them down, but that didn't stop them. There's one right there. They wrote a musical, a play that, like you said earlier, not a lot of people know about, and then you write arguably the most famous, most loved Superman movie. So there you go. Proof that you come back and do it, never give up, and that's what can happen to you. So that's the I'm not going to get too much into it because you listening have to go and watch it. Again, I have a link on the show description for you to get the tickets. But I love this part. Let me have you guys talk about this. Your company is called Foster Cats Productions. Why is it called that?
So while we were all in our various acting programs, we were living in New York together. It was 2019, before the pandemic, and we were really fed up with school. And so a way to get over it, we were thinking we might foster a cat. And we took some training courses, and we went to the shelter. And it just so happened that they had just gotten a new litter today, just off of the streets, of a mom and her 6 kittens that were all 3 weeks old. And they asked us to take it at the time, me, Harry, and Will. And we were just like, Yeah, why not? And kind of on a whim, a little devil may care. We took
in 7 cats off the street. We got every single one of them adopted to a loving family, and with the train's been rolling ever since. We foster kittens and cats.
Yeah, ever since then, about 30 plus cats or kittens, sick or stray, we've been fostering, and it's just been, that first litter was probably the best experience of my life. So just named after our love for fostering.
And we also try to continue supporting local animal shelters. We've partnered with Best Friends Animal Society in LA a couple times to try and raise awareness and funds for the work that they do in supplying love and care to all the kittens and also dogs. We do love dogs as well in the greater Los Angeles area.
Yeah, like I said, when I read that, I was like, oh, well, I got to have him on, not just because you're doing the Superman musical, but because of the reason why you have your company. It's a great story. Made me think of a few years ago, we didn't, that wasn't the plan to foster, but we found a kitten. She was about literally days old. I don't know if somebody abandoned her there, or the mom accidentally left her there, but she was crying. We brought her in. It was around October, and my kids named her Pumpkin. So it was Pumpkin, and then we got her adopted, and now she I don't know what her name is now, but she's living a nice, happy life. So it made me think of that also. So
That's so sweet.
Yeah, like I said, great. I love what you guys do. So, final question, if you can talk about it, what productions do you have coming up? And before you answer, I'm hoping specifically you have something for the Halloween season, because everyone on this show loves the Halloween season.
That's a great question. We've been throwing around the idea of a Halloween show for a long time. We do mostly shows that have been written, not a lot of new works. We're trying to dive into new work. We've been very interested in a Night of the Living Dead sort of a stage adaptation, which we've been trying to get in the works for some time now. One of our company members just adapted also some short stories by H.P. Lovecraft, which we are also trying to get on the stage. Horror is very, very difficult to do on the stage, as people may realize, because violence, blood and guts, a lot easier with special effects on screen. But horror still does exist on stage.
Yeah, and we're big fans of genre on stage. Because there's so much of the classic drama and comedy, and while I am a huge fan of those, and some of my favorite plays are those, I think it's really special when you see something that's like a genre you don't often see in that medium. And then I will say, we also, and for anyone who's, looking to see updates, you can go to fostercatproductions.com. You'll see when we update and we announce a new show. You can sign up for our newsletter, so you can be the first one to hear about it when we announce a possible Halloween show. And then also want to say that because we're in Hollywood doing LA stuff and doing theater in LA, we're meeting a lot of people who work in the film world. And so we have been talking with a few people as well as maybe working on a project for the screen. So that's another thing that we're floating around.
So I have that linked up on the show description. You can follow along. Do you have social media they can follow you on, or just the website? Yeah,
follow us on Instagram at Foster Cat Productions, and also Facebook by the same name, Foster Cat Productions.
And I'll link it all up on the show description for all of you listening. You don't have to search. You are welcome. And more importantly, for It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman, where can they get tickets?
So you can get tickets. Easiest way is to go to our website, fostercatproductions.com, and click on our Superman poster on the first page. It takes you to a ticketing link through Onstage 411. If you're familiar with that LA theater ticketing site, you can go straight there as well and just search for Superman. We'll pop up.
Yeah, and all of you listening, if you're thinking about it, don't take too long to think. It's running August 1st through 10th at the Broadwater in LA, so get your tickets now. Elliot and Harry, thanks a lot for coming on, spending a few minutes with us.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to go Friday or Saturday. I've been invited, so I will definitely enjoy it and talk about it on the show, what I thought of it. But again, thanks a lot for coming on, and I wish you all the best moving forward.
Thank you for having us. It's been a blast.
The Geek Speak Show. Volume 2 will continue right after this.
In case you missed it, the Geek Speak Expo has been rescheduled to the fall of 2026. That means that the search for speakers and panelists is once again on. If you have an idea for a panel, you now have an opportunity to pitch it to us to be included next year. The Geek Speak Expo is an all-ages event, so keep it all ages appropriate. You know what that means. If you have to ask if something is appropriate, let me answer it right here. No, it isn't. We are hoping to feature panels highlighting independent films and filmmakers, books including comics and graphic novels, cosplay, gaming, video, RPG, and card games, and anything else that would interest a geek audience. Visit thegeekspeakshow.com for more info and to submit a panel for next year's Geek Speak Expo.
This is the Geek Speak Show Book Club. In here, you'll find books new and old, comic books, graphic novels, anything you can read which will interest you if you like this show. Welcome to the Geek Speak Show Book Club.
So we're back from Comic-Con, back to normal. That means, of course, the book club is back. Now, let me start with a question. How many of you remember the Choose Your Own Adventure books? You, I see some hands over there. Last week at Comic-Con, there was a panel where members of the National Comedy Theater acted out a Choose Your Own Adventure story live on stage. Now, we weren't able to cover it, but like I always say, it's not like I don't have a show to where we can feature the panel. Any panelists that we miss, we can have them on the show instead. So that's the case for today on the book club. And on that panel last week was Shannon Gilligan. Shannon's the CEO and publisher of Chooseco and also a longtime Choose Your Own Adventure writer. She joins me now on the book club to talk about the Choose Your Own Adventure books and to share a big announcement regarding the book that started it all. Welcome to the show, Shannon. How are you?
Hi, Henry. I'm well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So, like I said, sorry we missed you last week, but let's start there, actually. Let's go back to last Friday. How was the Comic-Con panel? How did that go?
Well, it was a bit of a risk, a high risk. We were live outlining a completely original Choose Your Own Adventure, and it went really well. I'm happy to report. I think it went really well.
Yeah, not surprised to hear that. I mean, I know a lot of people, young and old like me, who grew up reading the books. We, as soon as we saw that, we wanted to be there. We couldn't, like I said, because as you know, Comic-Con is just packed with all kinds of things happening at the same time.
Right.
So our schedule was full, but I'm glad we have you here now.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
So let's start actually with the big announcement, like I said, regarding Edward Packard's The Cave of Time. What is that announcement?
Well, after many years, we have acquired the rights to 6 of Ed Packard's most iconic books. And the first out of the gate will be Cave of Time, which is published next week. And that in the original generation was book 1 and will be published following that every couple of months for the next year and a half with another book. And we're very excited, very happy to have Ed back in the fold and be able to publish these, historically super important books.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, people my age and that remember, that grew up with the Choose Your Own Adventure books, we're excited to hear that. Arguably, Ed Packard and R.A. Montgomery are the 2 most well-known names when it comes to Choose Your Own Adventure. So I'm glad we're going to get some of those books back. But what led to the decision to bring back The Cave of Time? What made you say, you know what, it's time to bring it back?
We had talked about it for a while, and we were moving our distribution. And what that means is like our sales reps and our warehousing to Penguin Random House Publisher Services. So Penguin Random House is the biggest publisher in the world. They are 5 times the size of the next biggest publisher in the United States. To put it in perspective, they have a division called Publisher Services that basically provides their infrastructure to about 50 small publishers. And we were approached by them about, going on 2 years ago now. And, it takes about 9 months to go through the negotiations and, NDAs and so forth. But by last spring, we had signed on and began the onboarding process, which took another 10 months. But and once we did that, I decided I'm just going to go reach out to Ed's team and see if we can get these books back in print, because we also felt we finally had the breadth and depth of distribution that would allow us to publish them profitably. So that's what we did, and we're just thrilled that we were able to, and that they're about to come back out into the world.
And the Cave of Time, that was the first ever Choose Your Own Adventure published. Is that how it went? That was the first one.
It was the first in the series that Bantam published, but you have to kind of go back in time 4 years from the 79 publication. So actually, I'm sorry, it was 3 years. In 1976, R.A. Montgomery owned a small press that was focused on innovative kids books, and called Vermont Crossroads Press. And Ed Packard approached him with this interactive book he'd written. R.A. Montgomery, or Ray, he recognized it as a kind of RPG in book form. Ray had started out in education and had developed a lot of educational programs that used gaming. He was all about John Nash's work. John Nash was the Nobel winner for game theory, that book on game theory that he'd written, just all of his work in game theory. Mm-hmm. And so Ray was very excited to see this, and he edited it and published it with Vermont Crossroads Press. It was well reviewed in, the general journals, review journals of the day. It got a starred review in Publishers Weekly, which meant that they were kind of calling it out. In every issue of Publishers Weekly, several titles in each category, adult fiction, adult nonfiction, etc., will be starred. And that means that they're kind of giving it an extra little check mark. This is really great. So, it was selling well, but Ray was a tiny press. And Ed left next to go to Lippincott, where he did 3 books. And Ray had already announced the second book, and having written a lot of books himself, he decided to step into the shoes. He'd also written and designed a number of RPGs, primarily for the corporate world and government in the early 70s. So he was familiar with the genre. That was one of the reasons he published it. He was very comfortable writing it. And he wrote Journey Under the Sea. Fast forward a couple of years, and Ray and his partner in the publishing house split, and he sold his half and took out some properties. And one of them was his pet project of what was then called The Adventures of You. And he brings it around New York and brings it to Bantam. And Bantam, at that point, did not have a children's division. And they were looking for a property to kick off an original fiction division for themselves. At that point, they just reprinted books that had been published by other publishers for kids. And they thought, wow, this is really innovative. This is really fun. And so Ray sold them 6 books. They wanted 6 books, and they wanted them in like 8 months or 9 months. And Ray was like, there's just no way I can write that many. He had started another book, Space and Beyond. And so they said, you can use other writers. And Ray brought Ed back into the fold. He brought in Doug Terman, who wrote By Balloon to the Sahara, and got them to agree to help write the first 6 books in the very first Bantam contract. So it was sort of funny, and the way that Cave of Time became book 1 was that Ed and Ray traded. Ed had been an IP lawyer, an intellectual property lawyer in New York. That was his day job when he was starting to write books, and so he traded free legal work for the post position, aka book 1. But after that, after the first contract, they split all of the contracts evenly. So if Bantam wanted 12 books, they each took 6. And Bantam very kindly went along with that. And they never gave an odd number of books, so it was never like, oh, we want 9 books. And, where does that extra book go? I mean, it was always evenly divided. And that brought, through the first generation, which wound down in about 1999. They had a great run.
Yeah, thanks for that story. I was never aware of the chronological order. You mentioned the book. Journey Under the Sea was actually my introduction to Choose Your Own Adventure. I think it was 3rd grade, I think.
Wow.
I got it as a Christmas present, and that's what, like many in my generation, we were hooked from there. Actually, I was going to say the Choose Your Own Adventure books. That's actually what introduced me to libraries. I wasn't aware of them, and I went to the library because I wanted to read more and more of them. So
wow. That is such a great. That's so great. I mean, they would be so happy to hear that, right? That he lived for that. Getting kids to read, getting them fluent, in reading. That was because fluency is the last stage of reading, and being a fluent reader is the difference. I've learned a lot about this being the publisher now, but being a fluent reader is the difference being able to read a map, read a menu, and being able to read a book. Like if you're fluent, you will read books. If you're not feeling fluent, reading it's actually like the fifth and final stage of reading development. And Choose Your Own Adventure is great for that last stage, and it also is something boys really love at a point where there's not a lot of fiction for them, or there didn't used to be. I mean, I think there's more now, but we're talking late 70s, early 80s. There was very little fiction. That was actually one of the reasons Ray started Vermont Crossroads Press. He had two young boys, and he was not finding any books that he thought, past a few general classics. He just didn't think there was enough being done for the boy reader.
You know what? You're right. Thinking back on it, that is the people that were hooked right away were the boys in my class. Well, they saw my Journey Under the Sea, and then we started ordering. Remember, we used to order the books from back then. We were able to order books with their book fairs or.
Yeah, Scholastic. There were two. Scholastic was always the 800-pound gorilla in the book fair space, but there was another one called Troll, and it really depended on where you were geographically in the country. But your school was usually covered by one of those two book fairs, and or book clubs would be you'd get a little printout. And you could order, and then at the end of the week, all your books would be delivered to the teacher, and the teacher would hand them out. Book fairs is when you actually got to go and buy the book.
Yeah.
And they'd be set up in a common area like the gym or the library or something. So they were very popular.
Yeah. Again, that's how I discovered the libraries, because our school was pretty small. We didn't have a library, so that's when the teachers told me, well, if you want to go to borrow them, go to this library, and that's how I discovered libraries.
Yeah, that's great. God, they're the best. I lived at the library when I was a kid. I loved it.
Yeah, me too. Which actually leads to the next question. Like for me and people, like I said, from my generation, nostalgia plays a big part in wanting to reread a lot of these books. But why do you think the Choose Your Own Adventure books, why do they still capture the imagination of kids today that are constantly bombarded with what I call digital distractions? Why do you think makes them still want to read the books?
That's a great question, Henry. And a version of this question was raised in one of our panels at San Diego Comic-Con about the past, present, and future of Choose Your Own Adventure. And that, it was more or less the same question. Why are these books still relevant? Why do kids still love them? And I think that there is a range of interactive experiences that are very well covered in the video kind of video game, digital space onward, but that in fact, there's an important component of interactive experience that can happen on paper. And I think it's meant to happen on paper. One of my ways of explaining this is sort of backwards, in that we've tried developing the books as ebooks twice, sort of first generation Kindle and then maybe third generation Kindle. And it was really an unsatisfactory experience. And we don't do ebooks now. I mean, we only do print books. And publishers or foreign publishers or something, when we license foreign language rights, are always shocked when I said, no, we won't sell ebooks. We won't sell you those rights. We don't believe in them. And it's not that I buy ebooks all the time and read ebooks, but it's not for these books. It just isn't a good experience. So my feeling is that there's this whole range of interactive entertainment that should happen in person and in physical reality, not in a digital imaginary space. Not that that's not totally legit. I'm a gamer. I love that stuff, but I think we fill this part of the quadrant. Choose Your Own Adventure does, and other well executed interactive books. So yeah, that's my theory. For lack of, it's not scientific, it's observational and anecdotal, but that's what I believe.
Yeah, well, I agree because I mean, it's kind of like what I tell my son. Also, he's also a gamer, but I sometimes tell him, go touch grass. But in this case, I mean, go touch paper and ink. I mean, there is something about. I say the same thing when it comes to comic books. I know there's digital comic books today, but there's just something about touching an actual book, turning the pages, the smell of fresh ink, all of that is part of the experience.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree with you.
There's another very important component to this, and that is numerous studies have come out, have been performed, and have the results have been published, where people, and this applies to adults and children, when you're learning to read or simply reading on paper versus on a digital screen, on a screen, you comprehend more, you remember more. It's fascinating to me, and I mean, this has been again and again. These studies are designed to try and prove the opposite, and again, it comes out paper is better, like for the reading experience, and certainly for learning to read. Hands down, to me, it is the preferable format, the preferable medium. I myself, if I'm given the choice, I will always read on paper.
Yeah.
And I used to think that it was because of my age, but I don't think so anymore. I mean, I talk to lots of kids who really want to read on paper. And I talk to lots of teachers and librarians who say, kids come in and say, yeah, I don't want to read it on my phone. I want to read it. Like, I want to really read it, which I find very cute, like a very cute distinction. Anyway.
Well, it's refreshing to hear, really, because I get the opposite. I get a lot of people who even people on my own staff that don't want to read. They no matter, not even ebooks, digital books. They just don't want to read. Period, which is a whole other thing. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Is being on and I know we all live on it on social media and on screens basically all of our lives now. But there's just something about, I always call it becoming a zombie, where you're just scrolling, and even reading a book, a regular book. We say get buried in the book. With Choose Your Own Adventures, you can't just get buried in the book, because you have to decide, okay, let me go to this page, or let me go to that page. What if I take this turn? So yeah, I think that's also why Choose Your Own Adventures specifically really, really, really is a great tool, and always has been, to, like you said, introduce kids and get them into reading.
Yeah, absolutely. That gaming component, there's something so special about it.
Yeah. That, I know we also live in this today. A lot of books, whether comic books or just regular books, they're adapted into live action series or sometimes animated or films. Would adapting Choose Your Own Adventure books work or not work if they did that?
That's interesting. I think it will work. I think that that the basic consumer of, like, let's say movies and streaming, the adult consumer, probably isn't like as open to it, like as I think a kid will be. We've been in development on for a film for many years. I mean, over 10 years. And, it's gone through a number of iterations in terms of screenwriters, and then whether it's going to be interactive or linear only. Is it going to be linear in the movies, but is it going to be interactive via streaming? I mean, there's all these interesting questions to be decided, but and that have to be figured out. But I mean, I think there is absolutely a place for either an animated or a live action interactive story. I think what's daunting is the budgets. If you're making one film and it costs $100 million and you have to double the length of minutes that you film to have the variations of the story, you're doubling the budget essentially, maybe not quite doubling it, but let's say you're adding another 80% to your budget, and then it becomes a completely different beast, and it becomes harder to, make the profit and loss work, and that model, the whatever they call the model, did the P&L work? And I think it just gets harder and harder. So we're finally at a point right now where we've got a really great executive at the studio that we're working with, 20th Century Studios, and we've been meeting for a number of months, and I think we're really getting somewhere in like a new vision for what this can be. And as much as I hate to say this, I'm almost glad that it's taken this long. But because the market has changed, the audience has changed in the intervening decade, and I think that they're more ready. For whatever we deliver, I think they'll be more ready for it.
Yeah, someone who watches films and shows on a regular basis, I would say. Netflix tried it a few years ago with a Black Mirror episode and another. I think it was an animated show.
Yep.
It kind of worked. Are you familiar, Shannon? Are you familiar with the Until Dawn movie that just came out?
Is that based on a Japanese anime? Is that one?
No, it's based on a PlayStation video game, it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. The game is.
I am not. This is something. Did it launch at Comic-Con?
No. It came out earlier this year. But the game is a few years old now. It was on PlayStation. It's called Until Dawn. It's a horror kind of game. But you basically play the all the characters, and again, like choose your own adventure books. There comes a moment in the games while you're playing where you have a few seconds to make a choice. Do you run? Do you fight? Do you this? Do you that? Everybody was reminded of the choose your own adventure books when they played it. Now they made a movie of that this year. However, it wasn't choose. It was just it was linear, but it had kind of like a time loop effect to it, and it worked for some people. But for fans of the video game, they wanted to see the choosing part, and that wasn't there, so it didn't work. So that's what I'm thinking is something like a choose your own adventure film or series probably wouldn't work unless there was some way to make people choose, whatever path they take.
Right. Way back in 1989, ABC TV optioned it. The children's group optioned Choose Your Own Adventure for what they hoped to become a primetime series. Mm-hmm. And of course, there was no question in 1988 or 9 when they were producing the pilot that there was interactivity available. There just simply was not. I think that there were video discs, something called video discs that looked like an LP album. They were that big.
Yeah.
And they played on a gadget that was put out by RCA, and you could hook it up to your TV, and you could. But the only thing that was delivered on those was, to the best of my knowledge, were just movies. Like, right, you could watch a movie.
Yeah.
And in theory, you could have made it interactive, but I don't believe that there were. I know there weren't any, interactive movies on it. So ABC, they wanted to do a pilot for broadcast. And they finally did a workaround where, there was this contrived, way that the main characters in the story made a choice. And there were these 3 choice points in the story. And, you were sort of made to think that, maybe you didn't know which one would come after the commercial break. But of course you knew, because they made the choice and that was where you went. And, it didn't really work. It was a charming little 45 or 44 minute, whatever the hour-long pilot, I think it's 4 minutes of runtime. It was charming, but they didn't pick it up. And I think it didn't, ultimately work because you weren't able to choose.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the big thing about Choose Your Own Adventure. You have to choose. I mean, it's in the title.
Right.
So otherwise it won't be a Choose Your Own Adventure movie or series or whatever.
Right.
So again, I have links to everything on the show description for all of you to get the books when it comes out next week. Real quick, Shannon, how did you become a part of the Choose Your Own Adventure universe?
Oh, this is a great story. I was hired directly out of college to project manage the adaptation of 2 Choose Your Own Adventure books into Atari console games. I know. Project man. Nothing. Software was so new that I didn't really even have a job title. It was just
wait. Did that ever happen or no?
Oh yeah, no. Those games occur. They were published, and they were published by Bantam. There was a very forward-thinking executive there named Alberto Vitali. He was the CFO, this wild man from Italy, and he and Ray Montgomery concocted this. They were going to form a new division. This was the future, and Ray had been managing it himself and was looking around for someone that could coordinate the artist with the programmers and all that stuff. And so I was hired, and ultimately, when the game And this was so much the history of software in the 80s, 90s, and even the aughts, was that, you'd sign a contract, or you'd inaugurate a project, and the device and the output device that you would be, programming for would be very carefully defined, right? And then time would pass, and by the time the final deliverable came, the hardware landscape would have entirely changed. And so you were constantly adjusting to changes of operating system and changes of output. And that was just very, very hard. But ultimately, when we came out with the games, it was between cycles. So we missed the first console. We were waiting for the second console to come out. So I don't think the games actually came out to 83 or 84. And they did moderately well. They weren't, I don't believe that version of the Atari console did that well. I mean, I think that they, kind of cratered for a while. And I don't know. I'm sure it was resuscitated by a piece of software, some other game, and I don't know what it was.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, interesting early days of gaming.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. I think I remember the all those games and all the early ones. Because I was there for that for sure. But for you, I mean, when did you start writing stories for Choose Your Own Adventure?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I did a lot of writing, adapting of the two games. The two games were Escape, based on the books Escape by R.A. Montgomery, and UFO 5440 by Ed, and that is, by the way, one of the books of Ed's that we're bringing out in the next 18 months. And right as the project was winding down, Ray and Ed had negotiated the right to use other authors, and Ray asked if I wanted to write one of the books. And so I wrote a book called The Search for Champ, based on sort of the Loch Ness monster of Lake Champlain.
Yeah.
And then I was off to the races. I really liked it, and they liked me, and so I wrote some more. And then I did some other kids' books that were not interactive. And in the late 89 or 90, I think it was 89. I think in the fall of 89, I was evangelized by Apple to, that was this interesting program that Steve Jobs had created to get non-software designers to design software. And CD-ROM was developing as, they were starting to, tout that and market that as the best storage vehicle, instead of floppy disks and stuff, or hard disks that we were moving to CD-ROM. And so they were looking for, other people to develop software. And so I sort of jumped ship from writing books to creating software, because I'd had this, I'd had both, right? I did experience, adapting the two Choose books in the early 80s, and then, writing a bunch of them. So I was a prime candidate for evangelism. And I was actually, it was the very last generation of evangelism. A new CEO had been hired, and he canceled it, John Scully. So, and then very shortly after that, Steve Jobs left the company. So I was there sort of in that, working on it in that period of time.
You actually made me think of something that I wasn't going to ask, but since I've never had a chance to talk to anybody else who's written a Choose Your Own Adventure book, is it harder to write a Choose Your Own Adventure book, or how is it different from writing just a regular book?
Well, it's interesting, and I want to give some credit to Kazim Ali, who was on the panel, both panels with me at San Diego this past weekend. When you're writing a novel, you and Kazim and I both written linear material and books, and we've both written. He's written a wonderful kind of fantasy futuristic book called For Choose Your Own Adventure, called Citadel of Whispers, and he said that he made a great point. When you're writing a novel, you're sort of writing a choose, but you're choosing the way that the story's going to go. So you come up with all these ideas of what your characters can do next, and but you choose one because you're writing a linear story. So in a funny kind of way, I think it's easier because you get to throw up every idea you have, and it can be like you get to investigate. Like you don't stop the story. Like you don't stop the branch that, oh, you could have gone this way. You could have put the character in a speedboat to chase after the other, the police. You get to pursue that. If in fact you stayed on shore and decided to call the police, from the phone booth nearby, or on your cell phone. I mean, like sort of interesting that I jump right into like the past, but like you don't get to pursue that. You're sticking with the phone call. And what's really fun about writing a Choose is you get to learn more about the story and the characters that you've created because you get to follow them down all these different routes. So I think it's easier. But then some people, don't love it because of that. Like it's a lot of like thinking about plot, and you've really got to love to plot, and you've got to love like that nexus of character and plot that I adore. But like not everybody loves that, right? I mean, some people like a book to be much more character driven, and some people like a book, to be much more plot driven. And I think you've got to love both to really enjoy writing and Choose.
Yeah. Well, I mean, whatever the process, it is fun, reading it and taking part in it. So. Yeah, I can see how it is. It's kind of when you were describing it, it's kind of like putting together a movie where, like you said, you have the protagonist. We're going to put him in this situation and do this. What if this happens? So it's kind of the same thing, except here on a Choose book, you may not have to cut everything out like you do in a movie. It's the only difference.
Right, exactly. It's kind of, I mean, the on a linear film, the job that's probably most akin to writing a Choose Your Own Adventure is the editor, who might have two completely different shots to tell, like, in a sequence, or even three, right? And they get to, or let's say it's a chase sequence, there might be 6 cameras on that chase sequence, right? From different angles, from ahead, from behind, from the side, from the other side, from overhead. And they're cutting between all these things. And you can tell very, very different stories. It's probably more akin to that than anything else on like sort of the filmmaking side of the aisle of a linear story. It's fascinating. It's really interesting.
You just made me want to research something. You just made me think of this as you were saying that. George Lucas was there at Comic-Con this past Sunday, the first time ever that he went there, and a lot of filmmakers today, they were influenced by his movie, by Star Wars, by George Lucas. It would be interesting to see how many editors were influenced or were Choose Your Own Adventure readers, and that's how they develop their skills to edit this way.
That's a fascinating question, and I do not know the answer.
I mean, you mean think of that as you were saying that. I was like, wait a minute, I wonder how many of them actually read Choose Your Own Adventures, and that's why they decided to be editors.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to think a few.
Yeah. I mean, perfect path. You're like you said, you're essentially doing the same thing you do when you read a Choose Your Own Adventure book.
Right. That's fascinating.
Yeah. So let me finish with this. It's kind of a big question. We've talked about this a lot on the Geek Speak show since last year, really, because it's becoming bigger and bigger. As the CEO and publisher of Choose Your Own Adventure of Chooseco, will you ever allow AI generated Choose Your Own Adventure stories in the near future?
No.
Good. I mean.
No. I think what people have to understand is that AI is just the next most likely word. It's not thinking. And I think that like a lot of people make a leap and think it's thinking, and it's not. And what I find, I've played with AI. I subscribe to ChatGPT and to Claude.
Yeah.
Claude is better for creative stuff. But it's anodyne. It's not that original, and it's not that realistic. I mean, when I say realistic, right, I'm talking fiction, but it doesn't feel like a fully evolved fictional kind of experience. And I think they really have to resolve issues of copyright ownership.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's very important. I really believe in I believe in intellectual property law. I really do. I mean, I think it's very important. And I just think of how kind of what a wasteland and desert culturally we would be without it. It's hard to imagine. So, hopefully in the near future, smart minds will prevail who have the common interest and common good at heart, not some big contribution to their reelection campaign or whatever else is driving them.
Yeah. I mean, talking to a lot of people, writers, directors, producers, authors, book authors, no one's a big fan of AI. They know it's there. They know it's coming. We can't stop it. But they're not big fans. None of them would want to see, read, or watch anything completely AI generated. It'd be weird. Yeah. Well, not only that, there was a guest that I had. It was an independent filmmaker. His story came from a personal experience. Him and his wife had a miscarriage, and out of that came this sci-fi film that they created. And we both said on the air, see, this is why AI will never work, because AI will never have a miscarriage and draw from those emotions to create the story. Right. So exactly. There's that part. The human side.
I am with you 100%. I just don't feel that that there's full dimension there. I just don't feel. And I mean, I know, all the really great sci-fi writers like envisioned, artificial intelligence at a point where it was indistinguishable. I mean, that's what Blade Runner's about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember the girl's name, the woman's name, but that it ends with the voiceover, the Harrison Ford character's voiceover saying, "Was she different?" They said she was different. And so, it was Harrison Ford, right? I hope I'm
yeah.
Yeah. That she was special. Rachel, her name was Rachel, and they said, that's good memory, right? I don't think I've seen that film in 30 years, but
I was trying to remember. I remember Daryl Hannah, the actress, but I can't remember her name either. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and they say like there's that because they've had some kind of conflict or fight, and she's cried, and then and I don't know if they part ways or something. I can't remember exactly what happens, but I do remember the voiceover and him saying, I really wondered, because they said she was different. They said she was special, meaning that she was part of a very small issue of robots that really maybe did have souls. I mean, it was just very, very interesting, right? I mean, it's such an interesting idea. I don't know. I think that I think we have to tread carefully.
Yeah. I mean, there's that Blade Runner, but we've also seen Terminator, so where AI could go.
Right. And chances are it's going to go there first.
Yeah, right? Probably. Yeah, so. With our luck, the past few years, probably that's where it's going to go first.
Exactly. Right. That was, you said it first, but I agree.
Yeah, so it's Shannon Gilligan. She's the CEO and publisher, like I said, of Chooseco, the Choose Your Own Adventure. Cave of Time coming. It's next Tuesday, I think.
Yeah, Tuesday, I believe.
Yeah.
What day is it? 5th, the 4th of August, the 3rd. I mean, it's next Tuesday, and we're all, it's going to be wherever you buy your books, wherever books are sold. So, it'll be at Barnes and Noble. It'll be at Amazon, of course. It'll be at your. We've had a great buy-in from independent bookstores, which is great. And because back when Choose was published, when Cave of Time was first published, that was all there were. I mean, I think that Barnes and Noble had 2 stores at that point, and Borders was like a distant, figment of someone's imagination in Ann Arbor. So, it was still that the business was very much grounded in independent bookstores.
See, I was going to say, let's really go back. I remember Walden's books. I think that's where I bought one of the titles there.
Yeah. Yes, and they were referred to, and are still referred to in the industry as the mall chains. So it was Walden and B. Dalton.
Yeah,
and
I don't know
if you remember that one as well, but those were the 2 bookstore chains that were always in malls, and they no longer exist. I mean, because people don't really shop in malls anymore. I mean, it's not the way they
I was
going to
say malls almost don't exist either.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, so before we go, let them know the websites, link, social media, everywhere where they can follow, and especially where they can get the books.
Okay. Yes. So you can buy the books directly from our own website, which is www.cyoa.com. You can get them online and offline at Barnes & Noble. You can get them at bookshop.org. You can order them through Amazon. Really any place that you buy books, just type in the words "Choose Your Own Adventure." We are on, we have social media, active social media on Blue Sky, Threads, Facebook, and Instagram. And depending on which platform, the hashtag changes a little. So I think it might be Choose Adventure on Insta, but on one of them it's Choose Your Own Adventure. I mean, it's Choose Your Own Adventure as often as it can be. And if you type in those words, I'm sure it'll default out to the proper whatever.
I'll make it easy for everybody listening. I'll find them. I'll link it up on the show description.
Okay.
There you go. They don't have to search for it.
There's somebody else who handles this at Chooseco. I don't touch it, and so that's why it's not. I should know this stuff off the top of my head. I will learn it.
No, I'm the same way. I have it. There's a whole that never was a thing even 15 years ago when we started the show. Now I need to have a social media team to handle just the social media because it's such a big thing.
Yeah. Right? I mean, exactly.
So, no, I get that. So, again, it's Shannon Gilligan. Shannon, thanks a lot. It was so fun talking to you, and it feels like we just did our own panel right here, right now.
Exactly. Henry, it was a pleasure. Really fun to talk.
Yeah, you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
If you have a favorite book, comic book, or graphic novel that you'd like to be featured on the book club, let Henry know about it. If you're an author and you'd like your book, graphic novel, or comic book and you to be featured on the book club, definitely let Henry know. Henry at thegeekspeakshow.com. The book club will be back next week, exclusively on the Geek Speak Show Volume 2.
And a fun little fact I was just thinking about as we were hanging up there. We mentioned Edward Packard, the author of The Cave of Time. Edward Packard, if you didn't know, and it kind of ties into the interview you just heard, the Superman interview you heard before that. Kind of ties into that a little bit. David Cornsweet, the new Superman, basically. Edward Packard, that's his grandfather. Little connection there, huh? Fun fact there for you. So that's it for this week. But before I go, let me again remind you that I'm actively now looking for a new co-host to join me on the weekly episodes. Now, a couple of people did get in touch after Monday's posts about this, but they decided it's not for them. And the reason why it's not for them, that's what I want to make clear to all of you. Being a co-host on the Geek Speak Show isn't just for the podcast every Wednesday. You'll do that, obviously, but it also means on camera at conventions like a San Diego Comic-Con that we just did, Free Comic Book Day, and other events like that. We're going to go to movie screenings, events like the Superman musical you just heard about. And because 'tis the season and it's coming up, a lot of Halloween events. Now, we don't just go for free just to go for free. I want to, and we will, record either a reaction video, or if it's like a Halloween walkthrough thing, we'll do that. So that means on camera. So it's not just on the mic. So if you aren't comfortable on camera, this might not be for you. However, if you're comfortable talking about speaking geek literally, if you're okay with being on camera, then this might be something you're really going to have fun at. And by the way, yes, you're going to go to WonderCon and San Diego Comic-Con without needing to worry about getting badges. You'll get those automatically. But if you just want a free badge to Comic-Con, this isn't for you. You got to be ready when we go to Comic-Con. You got to be ready to record interviews, and not just with RDJ and the big movie stars. Like the weekly episodes, we're also going to talk to visual effects artists, the composers, the indie directors, comic book and graphic novels, the writers, the artists, the cosplayers, to any cool thing that's not RDJ or Marvel or DC. Any cool thing that we find there at a Comic-Con. So if you just want to see celebrities, go to TMZ, because we don't do that here. So again, if you fit this, if you want to do this, or you know somebody that does, send them to our website. Have them send an email to geek.speak@gmx.com, and we'll take it from there. So like I said, that's the episode. Come on back next week. Sean Glenn and I will speak more geek. Now, back to sleeping.
While you wait for next week's episode, you can visit the show online at thegeekspeakshow.com. There, you'll find links for the guests, info about Henry and Sean Glenn, and links to all of the show's social media. Tell your friends that there's a show out there that doesn't hate everything and still finds the fun in anything that we read, watch, or experience. Henry and Sean Glenn will be back next week. But if they're not back by dawn...
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. If we're not back by dawn, call the president.
The Geek Speak Show, Volume 2, was produced and distributed by 22 Creations Multimedia, LLC.